Today, in honor of Thanksgiving, I'd like to talk about tastes of home and comfort food. Comfort food. What comes to mind for many of us is a large bowl of homemade mac and cheese. Comfort food, the phrase, has been around since at least 1966, and it was added to dictionaries in 1997. Online food posts include sections on comfort foods. For example, the Food Network posts classic comfort food recipes. Southern Living posts 101 best classic comfort food recipes. Delish.com has 80-plus comfort food recipes. And CountryLiving.com has 50-plus easy comfort foods, and so on. You can Google comfort food quotes. What else can you find on Google? Well, the unofficial comfort foods of every state in America, or comfort food by country. So what is comfort food? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, food that is satisfying because it is prepared in a simple or traditional way and reminds you of home, family, or friends. Associated words include satisfying, traditional, nostalgia, home, and social connections. The Oxford Dictionary states that comfort food is food that provides consolation or a feeling of well-being, typically having a high sugar or carbohydrate content and associated with childhood or home cooking. Associated words include mood enhancer, childhood, and home. Comfort foods tend to be the favorite foods from one's childhood, or else linked to a specific person, place, or time with which the food has a positive association. For example, this quotation, "Grandma always made the best mashed potatoes and gravy. They've become a comfort food for me." Or, "We always got ice cream after we won at football as kids." When do people eat comfort foods? Many people assume that comfort foods are eaten when a person is in a funk, depressed, bored, or lonely. However, based on the results of a web-based survey of 277 participants, loneliness, depression, and guilt were all found to be key drivers of comfort eating for women, whereas the men typically reported that they ate comfort food as a reward for success, in other words, when they were feeling upbeat. People think that they eat comfort foods in times of upheaval, but in reality, it may be that they are more likely to choose new options, not old favorites. This was tested by a researcher at the University of South Carolina. First, he undertook a familiar things survey in which 60 undergraduates at the University of South Carolina were asked to describe a favorite familiar food and state how it made them feel when they ate it. The descriptive results do suggest that familiar foods do offer elements of comfort, such as pleasure, nostalgia, ease, and strength. However, there are two competing perspectives that predict different choices of familiar or unfamiliar things in times of change. Consumers themselves predict that they would turn to a known comfort food in times of change, whereas research on the mindset of consumers predicts that consumers may be more likely to choose new options in times of change, because such times reduce cues that trigger habitual choices and create a more general change mindset. And some evidence for the second premise can be found in the habits literature, especially in new research on the process of breaking habits. Habitual behavior is supported and reinforced by environmental cues that are repetitious and similar. This researcher conducted 4 more undergraduate studies to test the latter presumption and found that when deliberation was unconscious, in times of upheaval, students chose something new rather than something familiar. People are more apt to seek out comfort foods, another study found, when they are jubilant or when they want to celebrate or reward themselves, than when they've got the blues, the blahs, or are feeling kind of lonely. Foods, however, can meet both physiological and psychological needs. Looking at physiology, when palatable foods are consumed, the body releases trace amounts of opiates, which elevate both mood and satisfaction, and which could reinforce a preference for foods that are most associated with these feelings. Comfort food has been found to reduce neuroendocrine, cardiovascular, and behavioral responses to stress. In a psychological study, researchers proposed that comfort food derives its appeal from cognitive associations with relationships. Quote, because comfort foods are typically eaten with primary relationship partners, the perceptual experience of eating these foods is encoded along with the higher order experience of social comfort. Therefore, the physiological experience of ingesting or even thinking about ingesting comfort food automatically activates the experience of psychological comfort that was initially encoded along with the food. In other words, comfort foods help alleviate loneliness by priming positive thoughts of previous social interactions, at least among those who are securely attached. The emotional power of comfort food comes from its connection with relationships and is realized in its propensity to reduce feelings of loneliness. When college students kept a 14-day diary, researchers found that securely attached individuals consumed more comfort food in response to naturally occurring feelings of isolation. So does comfort food improve your mood? One psychological study found that although people believe that comfort foods provide them with mood benefits, comfort foods do not provide comfort beyond that of other foods or no food. In their survey of college students, other researchers found that compared with new foods, comfort foods were more likely to be identified as a favorite food, a family tradition, a cultural tradition, something eaten for a holiday, something eaten for a significant family event, a part of the participant's past, or a reminder of home. So what do we consider to be comfort foods? Maya Angelou says, the best comfort food will always be greens, cornbread, and fried chicken. In one survey, favored comfort foods include both snack foods and meal-related foods. Highest among the snack-related foods were potato chips, followed by ice cream, cookies, and then candy or chocolate. Among meal-related foods, highest were pasta or pizza, followed by steak or beef burgers, casseroles or side dishes, vegetables or salads, and soup. Wansink et al. Found that females tend to prefer snack-related comfort foods, whereas males tend to prefer meal-related comfort foods. Females especially prefer candy and chocolate, and males especially prefer pizza or pasta, steak or beef, casseroles or side dishes, and soup. 18 to 34-year-olds preferred more snack-related foods, especially potato chips, ice cream, and cookies, whereas 35 to 54-year-olds preferred more meal-related foods, especially steak and beef burgers, as well as casseroles and side dishes. And those aged 55 and older also preferred more meal-related foods, especially soup and steak and beef burgers. Eating meal-related comfort foods made people feel healthier than eating snack-related comfort foods. In their survey of undergraduate students, Locher and others found that the students brought, when asked to bring common comfort foods to class, they brought chocolate chip cookies, peanut butter cookies, macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, especially fried wings, Rice Krispie treats, dirt pudding, sweet potato casserole, chips, meatballs, and pies. No one described preparing or consuming a novel dish or recipe to provide him or herself with comfort. Only foods associated with special or memorable events were seen as comfort foods. However, although comfort foods are associated with some prior social activities, students almost always eat comfort food when alone. Walker and others divide comfort food listed by college students into the following categories. Nostalgic foods, that is, foods that are particular to a time and place in one's personal history. Indulgence foods, that is, foods of high expense or richness in content. Convenience foods, that is, foods that are convenient because they're immediately available. And physical comfort foods, that is, the physical attributes of the food or physical changes to the consumer that are associated with the food. In the 1970s, when the phrase comfort food still appeared in quotation marks in newspaper lifestyle sections, potatoes were the comfort food, followed soon after by chicken soup. So how do we become attached to comfort foods? People list a number of ways, but two stand out. Past associations with the product, that is, between food and people or food and feelings. Or personality identification, that is, you focus on some aspects of the food that you see as being consistent with your personality. Let's talk for a moment about tastes of home. What is home? Well, since the late 18th century, it's been a physical place associated with family. But home may also be an imagined place, such as a community, a locality, a region, or a nation. And this is a socially constructed idea. Since the end of 1990s, home in relation to food has been studied mostly from the angle of migration studies. Taste refers to cultural preferences that are cultivated within social groups and that may distinguish one group from another. Subjective cultural distinctions are constantly redefined on both personal and collective levels. Tastes of the imagined home become so when named as such. In other words, place-bound foodways and feelings of belonging are constructed through meaning-making. These days, there's growing interest in the therapeutic use of comfort foods for those older patients who may well not be consuming enough to maintain their health or quality of life. NASA, too, has become interested in the topic, given the planned space mission to Mars. Comfort food is probably just what the astronauts will need on their undoubtedly stressful ultra-long-haul flights.